And one more thing for y'all as we're about ready to go here. Remember that you can type !donate in the chat to donate to Point of Pride at any time. You can also click the buttons below. And I should point out, in Tiltify, there are polls and targets. You can put your money towards both of those at the same time. And that's very important right now because our next run has a target to watch the FMV ending of Twisted Metal. That needs, last I checked, $175 still to be met. So let's get those donations rolling in. But that said, we are now ready for our first run of the marathon. So say hello to Jaxler, say hello to Frogmonster, and get ready for a very, very cool game. Jaxler, for any percent ridge skip, let's get hopping.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and happy Fireside Pride. I'm so excited to be opening the event this time around. This is Frogmonster. If you've never seen this game before, this is an indie 3D FPS Metroidvania made by pretty much a solo dev. In April of this year, I believe. This game is unbelievable. It's got this mix of Metroid Prime exploration with Doom Eternal, Dark Souls tier bosses. This game is just awesome. It looks beautiful, and I'm really excited to share the run with you. It's really, really sick. So, to briefly explain what the category means, we're playing the any percent run with the ridge skip route. So that just means we are allowed to use something called ridge skip about later. I want to say 20 to 30 minutes, or not 25 minutes into the run. That allows us to skip a bunch of the game's bosses. And there's a category that doesn't allow you to do that. So this is kind of the unrestricted any percent category for this game's speedrun. So we're also going to be doing the run on the hardest difficulty, which is classic. This is actually faster for speedruns because the enemies and bosses will move around faster, which is actually what we want. So there's no difference in DPS or damage or anything like that. This just allows us to get bosses to move through their phases faster, move towards us faster, etc. But with that being said, time is going to get started when I press confirm on this dialogue select. So PSIG, if we're ready to go, I would be happy to count us off.
Absolutely. I think we are perfectly ready to go. Go for it.
All right. Let's get this event started in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, welcome to Frogmonster, everybody. So in Frogmonster, you play as a frog with a gun, and you start off with two things. You have a 6-shot pistol with infinite ammo, and then you also, in a moment, we'll be seeing we get a tongue. And so our alt fire in this game allows us to stick our tongue out. And so in that case right there, let us hit a switch to keep moving. But up ahead here, it's going to allow us to pick up some critters and bugs in the environment. And so the first thing I'm going to be looking for here is those flies that are kind of flying towards the top of the arena. One flew right in front of me, so we're going to go ahead and yoink it. When you eat something in this game with your tongue, it has a on-consume effect. And in this case, when I ate that fly, it gave me a reload speed increase for about 20 seconds or so. And so we made use of that in order to speed up that fight and do it a lot faster. We talked to our friend Blue here. He's going to give us the shotgun. This is going to be very useful. And then we're going to equip the two bugs, or critters that we caught earlier. So in addition to having on-use effects, after you catch a new critter for the first time, you can actually equip it similar to the charm slots in Hollow Knight. So I equipped the frog for a longer tongue, which is going to hopefully help me catch a dragonfly. And then we equipped the fly that we caught earlier for an increased reload speed. Nice, that was a good catch. Dragonflies move around really, really fast, so it can be pretty tricky to get one relatively quickly. But we're also going to go ahead and get our first spell here called Fireball. And so the way that healing works in this game is that for a mana cost that depends on the spell, you can shoot a spell and it will heal you back for some of the damage dealt in return. And so Fireball is the most mana efficient way of healing in the game. It only costs 2 bars of mana to use, and it heals you for 1, and does about a full shotgun shell to the face. So it's very, very powerful. And so we're going to start off by just unloading the clip and both of our fireballs into the head of Groth here. And so if I do this fast enough, usually you can skip a phase right there, but unfortunately I missed a crit. So you're going to notice sometimes that there is a red hit marker when I hit enemies, and that means I've hit either a headshot or a critical hit of some kind. And so we're going to finish up by just shooting him just like that. There he goes. He should die in one last 6-shot clip. And so I made sure that I killed Groth on that side of the arena so that Trench is actually manipulated to spawn near the exit. We want the money from him so that we can spend it on a pretty big shopping trip later. And so now we're going to go ahead and make our way to the next area called Marvin's Domain. We're going to be kind of going through the next couple of areas mostly in order until we get kind of geared up, and then we can kind of do some nonsense. So we're going to go to that save point and reallocate our bug slots. I went ahead and equipped that dragonfly we caught. The dragonfly allows our bullets to travel through the air faster, so it's a projectile speed increase and a 5% damage buff, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it can add up on a lot of the boss fights in the early game here. And so I actually got really lucky, and this critter called a purple snack was close to the ground here. Its on-consume effect is that it gives you a free mana-less cast of your whatever spell you want. So this is going to give us a free fireball, which can let us instant kill that enemy as he spawns in. Then I can shotgun this guy. And so basically every like mob fight in this game is pretty much orchestrated or rehearsed. There are specific kill quotas that will determine whether or not an enemy will like spawn in next or not. So like after a certain amount of enemies are taken care of, the next wave will spawn in, right? So those like enemies that kind of waddle around and explode if you get too close, those enemies don't actually count towards the kill quota, so we don't even worry about them. And if I kill them in the other enemies in a specific order, I will know where all the rest spawn, so that we can just kind of go through, and it's a very deterministic thing, and that's what kind of makes a lot of the combat in this run really fun to optimize. And so where we're headed next is we're actually taking a little bit of a detour. We could be getting to the boss of this area a little bit faster than we are, but we're going through kind of this secret platforming segment in order to get another spell. We picked up another weapon on the way, which is this like machine gun, which is just going to be a really helpful source of DPS. Our shotgun is going to be our primary weapon, but having another like secondary weapon is super crucial, especially on Marvin coming up here. And then we also just picked up the Mush Bomb. That's another spell. We're not going to equip it right now. We're actually not going to see it until much later, because it's going to be used for skips more so than it is going to be used for combat. And then we got kind of lucky here, I think. Yeah, there we go. So we get another purple snack here. So this is going to give us basically 3 fireballs that we can spam right at the start of the boss Marvin. So it turns out that in Marvin's Domain, you meet Marvin. And so he's actually a good guy, but he doesn't know we're a good guy too, so he's going to get a little angry at us. And so I'm listening for where he spawns in, because if I'm fast enough, I can get 8 shots in with the shotgun before he kind of retreats. And then he has a critical hit spot when he specifically does that attack right there. And then he's also going to launch these spores into the air. The first attack that this boss does is guaranteed to be the attack where he sends spores into the air. But after that, it's random. And so I kind of need to not only manage my ammo, but react to what he does on the fly and create the best course of action here. So we're going to get a pretty fast phase 2 right there. Didn't get a lot of shotgun ammo there for a second, so we mostly want to be using shotgun here, but we are like getting none. Yeah, okay, he was like 1 shot. So it's like a 50-50 for each like ammo drop in this room to be either machine gun or shotgun shells. And I just got kind of the low roll on that like medium distribution, right? And so defeating Marvin is going to get us another sort of Metroidvania upgrade. This is going to give us a dash. It's worth noting as well, when we killed the first boss, we got another equipable bug slot. So you start the game with 3, we got a 4th one from the first boss, and we'll get a 5th later. But we have a dash now. And so dash is on a cooldown, and so the big key with moving fast with the dash is staying airborne. You have pretty high friction in this game, and if you hold down the jump button, it will buffer a jump when you land on the ground, and so you can kind of maintain your airspeed for longer. Alright, so all of these rats in this outskirts area are going to be pretty easily dispatched with either 2 shotgun bullets to the face or a fireball and a shotgun in quick sequence. And again, we know all the kill quotas and we know exactly where all the enemies are going to spawn, so we can actually completely manipulate the enemies to go exactly where we want them to. So that last rat is the one that I was worried about in particular, making sure it didn't get stuck on some geometry as it was trying to find its way via pathfinding. And this fight is also similarly orchestrated. There's 2 types of rats that are going to spawn in this fight. There are the freestanding rats that like shoot projectiles at range. What we want to do is make sure that we're having the rats that move come to us as quickly as possible. And so what we're doing is we're prioritizing the free. He didn't die. That's rude. We're prioritizing the freestanding rats there so that we get closer to the rats that we want to destroy with the shotgun, and then the other rats that can just kind of follow with us with their run speed. We don't have to chase after them as much. So that's kind of the idea behind that fight. And then before we get to this next boss, I'm also shooting some of these lamps because as a little Easter egg, they drop some coins when you shoot them or hit them with your tongue grapple. And it might not seem like a lot, but the if you hit enough of them, it actually really adds up for the money route that we're working towards once we get to like the first major shopping area of the game. So we're gonna start by unloading all of our shotgun ammo into Long Beast's head. The way this works is that the body of the beast is a giant arena. He doesn't have like a place where you can go for like headshots or critical hits, but what you can actually do is you can bait this rat that he summons into charging into a weak point on the boss's body, and that will stun the boss and drop some of your more powerful weapon ammo. So we actually got pretty lucky here. We managed to get a good bit of shotgun ammo here, and so if he doesn't die to that, he's going to go ahead and laser beam with the eyes, and then the fireball should kill. Yep. And so that's Long Beast taken care of. That was an 843. That's pretty good. We're going to grab another chest right here. We'll explain what that is a little bit later, but our buddy Trench is going to come in. He usually gives you money every time you defeat a boss, but oftentimes it's slow to wait around for him. So there's two specific fights that we wait for, the first boss and then this third boss. Although Marvin does not actually give you any money. I forgot about it. I think Marvin's like the only exception to that rule. And then coming through here, we are going to get another Metroidvania upgrade and then quit and reload. So I purposely avoided a bunch of checkpoints on the way here. And that's because whenever you get something major like Sticky Hands, for example, it autosaves to your file, but the autosave to your file very rarely updates your last saved checkpoint. So I was able to quit and reload and leave Outskirts, and I did the exact same thing there with the Sparkling Gem to skip a fight. So it essentially allowed us to get right out of Outskirts, and the trip from Marvin's Domain to Outskirts is supposed to be a one-way trip. So because of that, we were able to completely skip an area of the game called the Really Lost Swamp, and that skips like an entire boss and one of the game's like primary weapons, which is going to have some consequences for later. But right now, I'm going to be doing a couple of arena fight skips here. I'm going to focus for this one because this requires a dash jump, and then I land up here. And all of these walls are solid, and a lot of the collision in this game is pretty bouncy, so you kind of have to be careful with where you land and where you aim your dash jumps, but that was the first one. That's the one that I find to be a little bit trickier. And then if we eat the birds, which sounds really tragic, but it's really convenient for us because they give us like unlimited dash refreshes and allows us to zoom through Yellow Forest here. We're going to pick up that river fish because it gives all of our weapons a little bit of extra ammo. This guy is going to say hello. I'm going to shoot him in the head. Goodbye. Oop, okay, I almost choked the second skip here. So there's all these like bamboo shoots that have collision around the sides of the arena that you can use to just completely skip those fights, which save about 30 seconds apiece. And then we can skip the legs boss, I think that's his name. You can see him loaded in over there. We just jumped over the wall. And it turns out that the dev actually knows about that skip now, and he left it in the game, but he patched in an additional piece of dialogue from those guards being like, hey, you're not supposed to be in here yet. You're supposed to go kill the boss. And we just didn't. So that's cool. So now we're in Green Sea. This is kind of one quick fight into some swimming movement. We picked up a fish along the way called Bass, which just gives us an increased swim speed. And then some of these pufferfish enemies, when attacked, will kersplode, which we can actually use to do friendly fire on some of these enemies as well, which allows us to save ammo as well as kill these a little faster. So that was a really good one, but we're just going to be swimming here for a little bit, so PSEG, now would be a really good time if you want to step in and bring up any messages.
You got it. We have a $15 donation that came through from Anonymous that just says, ribbit. And please do keep those frog-themed donations rolling in. That puts us within $160 now of unlocking that FMV ending for Twisted Metal. That run is right after this one, and that FMV ending is going to be at the ending of Twisted Metal. So please keep the donations rolling in. We want to see that video ending. And we also have a poll for Spyro Reignited, the color of Spyro. I believe right now between $35 and $35, blue and purple are tied. But keep those donations rolling and keep on watching. Back to you, Jaxler.
All right. So now we've made our way to city, and we're gonna do our major shopping trip here. I probably shouldn't go. This is probably slow for me to go for, but it would be fun. Oh, I just missed it anyway. Okay, I was gonna go for a bit of a swag strat there, where you can jump through the window that I'm attempting to go into the building of. But instead, we will just clip through that door. Sometimes if you just walk at that door the right angle, you just phase right through it while you're opening it. Because we want that square rock. And so we're selling a bunch of the stuff that we picked up from chests over the course of the game, especially that sparkling gem that we got. And we're going to go spend most of the stuff that we've built up an inventory for here. So we're going to sell 1, 2, 3, buy 1, buy 2, 208 left over. So I need at least 201 here in order to have enough money by the time I pick up that sparkling gem. So when I said earlier that like hitting those lamps for those 3 coins a piece mattered, that's how tight the money route is, right? And so the way that this shopping trip works is that shopkeep in the Yellow Forest village, you can take that sparkling gem from his chest upstairs. But if you do, it permanently raises all of the prices in his shop. So we buy everything and sell everything we need to him. And then we go ahead and steal the gem, sell it to Ren inside the city shop. And then we buy another bug slot. And this is going to allow us to kind of have our primary combat loadout for the rest of the run, which I'll get into a bit more details for a bit later. But now we're going to see the first use of a Mush Bomb bounce. So that spell I got in Marvin's domain, we can summon one of those Mush Bomb enemies on command and damage boost off of it. And that lets us skip a cobweb thing that just kind of would normally require another progression upgrade to get. And so you're gonna notice my bullets are I'm kind of cheating a little bit. I kind of have auto aim. Excuse me, and that's because of the build that I am running. So I am running something called Mush Frog Beans. And so with certain spells in the game, if you have like a certain combo of like spell and bug equipped, you get a special effect. And for beans, it lets you auto aim your bullets for a few seconds. And that's really broken. I also just did something there almost first try called a web clip, which allows you to skip another boss requiring you to get the flamethrower weapon to burn down that cobweb. And now we're going into another skip. This is a state skip. This is one of the hardest skips in the run. Starts with a mush bomb bounce. There we go. So that's going to get us out of bounds. And I'm going to attempt to wall bounce here. That should work. First try. Nice. And so the cricket that I picked up earlier, like it moves us faster if we eat it, but it also allows us to store a second charge of our dash. And so if we bounce into certain walls with our dash, it actually bounces us upward instead of down. And so we can go up and over the invisible wall, which helps skip that flamethrower boss, but also skips going down into the bottom of the well, which is a really long auto scroller for a key that normally opens that door. And it also unloads the fight trigger, so we don't have to do a really difficult wave of enemy combat. And so yeah, we're gonna see the beans come to play here. So again, it's not, even though our bullets are homing in on enemies, I still have to aim. And the reason why is that the bullets will take the path of least resistance in order to get to their target. And so sometimes that can mean that the bullets will take a body shot instead of a headshot. And so because of that, I'm actually aiming like where I shoot. And sometimes I'll be like staring up into the sky and shooting because it spawns the bullets higher in the air, which makes it more likely I get a headshot. And so in addition, there are 2 other pieces of our loadout that are going on. One of them is called Leaf Bug, which gives our shots a chance to shoot a second like set of bullets. So if you ever hear like sort of like a weird like double shot sound, especially from the shotgun, and you see yellow bullets, that means Leaf Bug has activated. And for the shotgun, for some reason, it means that if you get the proc, it doubles every shot in your like all of the pellets from the shotgun blast, which is just super broken and super high DPS. And so that's going to be our primary like damage focus here. And we're using the beans again here because it actually allows us to lock on to all of these critical hit points, which are these eyes that like pop up on Hedgeward here. This is kind of like the first like I would call like backbreaker boss of the run, where it like really gets dangerous and really difficult to do fast. Just because it's really easy to get cornered in some of the walls of this fight. And this should be last phase here. So now we're getting both the eyeballs here as well as the spikes, and then This guy's going to be shooting at us from top, and that's the fight just like that. And then from here, I'm going to, while we're in this cutscene, try to... There we go. I managed to clip through that gate. So we just got the wood cannon, which is a required progression upgrade in order to get to kind of the end game area called the Ridge. It's technically possible to get there without doing this, but that route actually ends up being slower, funny enough. So that was a really, really good Hedgeward, actually. He actually played really nice with me. One part of the build that I didn't mention that I'll go into a bit more later is something called Magnet Roach, which causes like drops and pickups and stuff to zoom into us from further away, which I'll explain why that's more important when we get to some of the more difficult fights. But we're going to throw the bass on real quick because we are going to go into sort of the jungle treetops area, which is going to get us another Metroidvania upgrade that we need, as well as get us on our way to Rooney, who we need to take care of in order to make our way through Ridge. And so this is actually going to introduce our second major equipable loadout, which is called Mantis Minnow. So Mantis Minnow spawns a Mantis familiar that sits on top of your head, and you'll occasionally see a hit marker randomly appear even though I'm not shooting my gun. The Mantis that is sitting on my head is occasionally shooting at enemies for me. And the Minnow that I have equipped increases this rate of fire. And so what this is going to allow me to do is allow me to focus on dealing damage to bosses and enemies, and focus on platforming here, for example, without having to necessarily shoot them myself. And that is really important because with the way that the next couple of bosses work, we get less value out of that leaf bug chance to like get double bullets than we do with this setup right here. And one of those reasons is for specifically the boss that's coming up after this wave fight, but also has to do with some of the boss mechanics for Rooney as well. So we're going to be kind of using this loadout for the next little while here. I'm going to go ahead and reload my wood cannon. The wood cannon is kind of like the BFG. It has a single fire that does a boatload of damage, but it cannot critically hit. And the nice thing about Mantis Minnow is it's really good at hitting these like really annoying flying head enemies for me without like really having to worry. And you're gonna notice that I'm kind of just spending my mana willy-nilly. Mana really does not matter for this next boss, and it's because it does not have a health bar in the traditional way. So this is Chroma, and the way that Chroma works is that whenever you hit Chroma's wings with one of your bullets, it will change the color on the bullet, or on the wing, and you need to get enough surface area coverage in order to advance to the next phase of the boss fight. So you're going to see in a moment, hopefully, if I get enough shots here, we go to blue, and then it's going to have the boss go magenta here eventually. And unfortunately, the boss is not spawning in any enemies, so I have to stick with the pistol. So you are a little bit at the mercy of the RNG here. If you get really unlucky, the boss can just not summon mobs, which it's not going to do, unfortunately. So we might get a Smolo Chroma here, and that's okay. The big thing here is I just need to survive. Okay, so now Chroma's going up into the air. It's going to summon some enemies, and these little familiars are all one-shot by Mantis Minnow here. And so that was a really clutch dodge. And so flying over here, boss should be going to next phase now. We have basically full shotgun ammo, which is good. And then when the boss flies at that angle, that's how you know we're in the next phase. Try to squeeze in 2 shots here. Boss didn't want to turn. And then the boss will die, hopefully momentarily, once we get the last bit of coverage here. Oh, that's really unfortunate. I dashed right into a shockwave. It's okay. The estimate is higher than, like, you would normally need for something like this, just because, like, Chroma is just so rude sometimes. Rooney is so rude sometimes. But luckily, we don't have to do this fight again. We're going to have a little bit of less total ammo going in, but that's totally fine. I got really unlucky there, and I just did not have many resources. So it's not exactly my fault. I might be coping just a little bit. But yeah, as you can see, we immediately now got the attack. It's really rare that you don't at least get this attack within the first couple of like cycles of the boss doing its thing. And then pretty much as soon as I see that we have made that phase transition to the next like color, that's when I use my shotgun ammo. Because the shotgun ammo, especially up close, has like a lot of pellets really quickly. So it's like really good for getting fast coverage up close. not quite there yet, but after this we should certainly. Yeah, and you can see like how much faster the fight is already going, just because I actually have ammo now. So while we're finishing this up, PSEG, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add as well, but now would be a great time.
Absolutely. I would just like to tell everybody that if you want to follow Power Pride on social media anywhere, you can find us by using !social in chat. And you can join us on YouTube, Blue Sky, Mastodon through Kind Social, or Discord. And otherwise, this game is just gorgeous, and I am having a blast watching all this incredible movement, so keep it up.
Thank you. Yeah, this game is super fun. Again, this game was made by a solo dev, so I hope if you've seen this game at all that you consider like picking it up, especially during like the winter sale coming up, because I really love it when like indie devs get to do something weird and special. PSEG and I were actually talking about this before the broadcast started, where this all of like the graphics and the engine for this game is all custom. So it's all custom and made by like a single dev. For the most part. I think there was like help with like some of the music stuff and all that, but like still, like the fact that this game exists and is like this like unbelievable, like I just want to encourage everyone to play it.
And if I may jump in to say, anything with good voxel art like this, you will have my heart immediately.
Yeah. It's difficult to do right. That's the other thing. I'm gonna kill this guy with the pistol here. Oh, he didn't go away. Please go away. Thank you. Do you know if you tell the enemies to go away, they eventually will? Cool fact. But yeah, coming up here is the Rooney boss fight. This is what we needed this wood cannon for. We're gonna go ahead and eat this ammo bug to just refill. We have full resources on everything. So if we go into this fight with everything, there's a really cool phase skip that I can, I wouldn't call it a phase skip, but fast phase 1. So during this opening cutscene bit here, there's a window where you can squeeze in a shot. And so we use that and then reload during the cutscene with the text box up so that Rooney doesn't bother us, and we're already in phase 2. And then the way that phase 2 of Rooney works is that Rooney will change the color of his wand, and that will actually influence what attack he does, and he will also steal all of that ammo type. So there's a lot of weapons that we're supposed to have like ammo for, that we just don't, because we just completely bypassed it. So we're gonna go ahead and kill this enemy, and I'm making sure I'm using my spells, because spells are healing in this game. And so now we're in phase 3 here, and so each one of these phases is based off of a different weapon that you have. And so for this phase, it is based off of, so I'm going to go ahead and use, we keep Mush Frog regardless of the build, just because of the utility you get from having auto-aim hacks, pretty much. And I'm using Mantis Minnow here again, so because of all these familiars that he summons, it usually takes a couple, like for example, a couple of machine gun bullets here for me to be able to take care of one of them, but Mantis Minnow takes care of it in one. Which is really, really nice. So basically, every time Mantis Minnow's off cooldown, it's ready to kill the next one. And so this is the phase for like the minigun that we didn't get, and then this is the wood cannon phase. So for any phase in which you did not unlock the weapon, because it is possible that you can get to this point without every weapon, even casually, you're given the pistol to use, which actually ends up being faster for some phases, funnily enough. All right, so this is where Ridge Skip comes into play. This is what separates the categories apart. So normally, in order to advance to like the next part of the game, past these doors, you need to kill 5 additional bosses besides Rooney to get past this door. But if you wedge yourself in a specific spot as the door closes, you can sneak right past and skip all of the Ridge boss segments, which saves literally like 20 minutes. Like that's like the big reason there's a whole like category split for it, is it's like almost a completely different like approach to the run. So we're gonna go ahead and try to save here. Come on. There we go. So we're going to save, reload, and we are going to do one final loadout change. We're going to go back to Leaf Bug and Magnet Roach here. Magnet Roach, I didn't really get the chance to cover all that much previously, just because, you know, we've been going at a really good clip, thankfully, because I've been playing half decent. But Magnet Roach basically increases the pickup distance for things like ammo drops, but also mana. And one of the mechanics with the game is that mana drops decay over time. So what that means is that the mana that you get from a mana pickup is less effective the longer that it's freestanding out in, like, space, right? And so because of that, Magnet Roach allows you to essentially cycle through more mana and spells, which is your healing and your damage as well. So it's really beneficial to have when you can sort of afford to run it, if that makes sense. And then again, because whenever I cast beans, if I have that Mush Frog equipped that we got from Marvin's domain, it causes my bullets to auto aim for a little bit, and as you might expect, that's really broken. So we're gonna do 2 shots right here, and then again, all these fights are kind of pre-scripted. This is kind of like the final gauntlet of the game, where it just throws like a giant series of like ridiculously hard like enemy waves at us with like a lot of HP, dealing a lot of damage quickly, can pretty quickly overwhelm you. You got these guys that kind of hide behind the trees and stuff like that. These next couple of fights are pretty chill for the most part. It's just getting, you know, once you kind of like have studied the fights, making use of your beans as well, you know exactly how things are going to go, and you can keep yourself pretty healthy as well. So yeah, we're getting kind of close to, like, not like the end of the run, I would say, but towards the part where I can, like, kind of be, like, you know, have time to talk about stuff. Ooh, we got a double hit there. So it's really rare to get, like, a double wood cannon proc there, but if you do, it does, like, an ungodly amount of damage. Yeah, trying to kill the bull there as well, because he actually does 2 bars of damage instead of 1, which very few enemies in this game have that property. Most of the time it's just bosses, so you gotta be very, very careful. And now we're going to go into sort of like the final wave here before we get to the first of the 2 Myzand fights. So P-Seg, this would probably be the last good time, I would say, for anything we'd like to like plug or have read before like we get towards the nonsense.
Sounds great to me. We have a $10 donation from Flannel Cat, who says, had to make my first donation during the first run of the marathon. Go play Frogmonster and say nice things about Jaxler. Thank you so much for that donation, Cat. And as a reminder, if you want to donate to Point of Pride, our charity of choice, !donate in the chat. We'll give you all the details. And do we have time for a little more talk about Point of Pride?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, sounds great. So, Point of Pride. Well, for Fireside Pride 2024, we're raising money for Point of Pride. It's a trans-led 501c3 nonprofit organization providing life-changing access and life-saving affirmation to trans folks in need of health and wellness care via financial aid and direct support. If you'd like to apply for one of Point of Pride's grants or garment programs, get involved as a donor or volunteer, or just learn more about them, visit pointofpride.org.
All right. So we have 2 more boss fights before the end of the run, but this first one is arguably the hardest. This is Myzand 1. And so normally the way that this fight operates is that it's like a amalgamation and like remix of all the bosses that you fought in Ridge, which is really kind of cool. But it means we're going to see like a lot of really difficult phases in a gauntlet, essentially. And so we got that phase first. They can come in a random order, and some phases you want to see before others. So these 2 phases you kind of generally want to see later. You want to get like the harder phases out of the way, I find. So I'm going to use this attack. This is probably one of the easiest phases to manipulate, because if you're up close, this projectile attack won't really bother you too bad. And then if you're kind of moving around in a certain pattern, the boss can't really jump on you. And then in this last phase of this phase, you can move around in circles and make like this, I would call it a dog chasing its tail, but that's a rat. So, all right, and now we got the I forget what this one is called. This is a name of a type of creature, but I'm blanking on the name for some reason. And so we are a little bit at the mercy of ammo drops here as well, and we need to be, and this is a big reason why the machine gun is so important, is because we need to make sure that we're not wasting ammo or mana, frankly. And the reason for that is that you will pick up drops even if you have, like, more than the allotted space in your inventory for them. And so it can become an issue where you end up, like, losing out on potential ammo because of that. So we're getting, like, a lot of wood cannon drops, which is really nice. Wood cannon shots are, like, free damage, pretty much. And so this is the Uskin Dord phase. So this is a 2-boss encounter that is normally, like, 2 bosses ganging up on you. And so the way that you can make this easier for yourself is if you get the guy with the swinging blade as opposed to these hot poker weapons to attack his older brother by accident, you can deal extra damage as well as get some free mana drops. But when he does this attack, you have to be very, very careful because it is a deceptively large hitbox and speed. So you dash out of the way for this one. Yeah, and you gotta be a little careful here. I'm gonna play this a little bit back. Yeah, and it was a couple pistol shots. So you need to kind of keep track, and this is a great phase to get next. So this is a phase where there is no damage threshold. There are just these little throat pimples, I call it. That's probably not a great way to call it. But that's the term that came to mind. So I said it, so now you all have to deal with it. I'm so sorry. But they heal you for a free life bar every time you shoot one of them and destroy them. You don't even necessarily, I think, need to destroy them in order to advance this phase. I might be wrong on that, but that basically gets us to full HP for free, and we only need to use our pistol for that, so it's really efficient for us. This is probably the best phase we could have seen next, because this is the phase where we get the bird that drops a lot of resources for us. And so I'm going to try to... I didn't get, like... Okay. So now we can use... this is probably one of the biggest places where Beans saves time, is it just makes homing in on these, like, weak points way easier. And now we actually have a decent amount of resources here for what's probably the hardest phase. We got a double hit. That's really lucky. And we have Krogar. And so there's 2 phases to this part, where he's kind of, like, in this, like... beat spider phase, and then he's going to break out into different body parts that all have like individual AI and attacks and stuff that chase after you and stuff, and it's really scary. And so we are going to go ahead and play back and make sure we're aiming for the critical hit point just to make sure we're getting maximum damage. Now we're going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and use a fireball just to get rid of one of these eyeball guys, because they're really hard to deal with. And then we're just going around the arena in circles here, just trying to remain safe. The big thing here is that if you die at any point during this fight, you have to do all the phases of the fight all over again. So you got to be real careful here. But I think that might be the last one. Yeah, so we got through first try, which is really, really good. Alrighty. So that's Myzan 1. So we have one more boss left before the run is over. And that is Myzan 2. So this is where we actually fight Myzan instead of him, like, you know, transforming into all his different, like, alternate versions and stuff like that. So normally I take, like, a quit and reload here for ammo, but I think I actually get more value if I don't, because I have some mana left over. If you get really lucky, you can have full resources getting into this, but it's very rare. So we're going to start off the fight with a wood cannon shot. I'm probably going to immediately cast the fireball, because I'm trying to get him to do a phase transition pretty much immediately. And something I didn't really cover about the healing in this game is that it's a delayed effect. So there's actually like a physical like healing particle, for lack of a better term, that makes its way towards you after you get hit. So there are situations where you can die after you think you got a heal, or you can tank a hit and then take the heal, and it's as if you're still at full HP. And then every time the boss kind of like transitions phases here, it sort of gets the boss to give us a bunch of mana, which we can use to funnel headshots with the shotgun right into his face. And now I immediately just noticed that the hit marker disappeared from when I was dealing damage to him. That means that we have successfully hit the damage gate to get us from phase 1 into phase 2. And we're not out of the woods yet, because phase 2 is really, really difficult as well. We're going to probably see at least every attack once. Some attacks are a bit more dangerous than others. So this is usually a pretty common attack to see first. This is a ranged attack. And so I'm dashing from left to right, making use of the not the shotgun, the machine gun. you got to do a really scary dash right there in order to avoid him right there. And then hopefully that's like not a great attack he gave us, but you get a lot of mana out of it, which is awesome. And then you're going to dash out of the way here. And then while he's kind of getting out of the way, and I can't really hit him super well. Wow, that was... I can't believe I reacted to that. Alright, so this is probably the most difficult attack to avoid taking damage on. We're a bit low HP. I probably die here. Yeah. I got really unlucky explosion spreads there, so we have to do the entire... unfortunately, we have to do all of Myzan 2 over again, which, you know, that's kind of just how Myzan 2 goes. I'm going to go ahead and instead grab a second wood cannon shot here instead of a second shotgun. It's just a little more raw DPS. And we're going to give this another go. So he is almost guaranteed to do a close range attack in this first phase, and then like kind of some sort of ranged attack like this in his second attack. So I'm actually kind of getting closer to him there to try to prompt him to do a specific type of close range attack. Or like a gap closer is probably a better way of putting it. And the key to dealing the most amount of damage we can during that phase is just to stay underneath the boss. Because that then allows us to... and I'm also aiming aiming my shots kind of high up, so that the auto-targeting takes a... Wow, that was a really good second half to that bit. The nice thing, though, is that as like kind of a grace mechanic, it will spawn a soul frog, which is something you can eat for a little extra HP the first time you... Like when you die, so you see that little fella right there. Yoink. So we got this attack out of the way pretty early. I can't believe I did not get hit there. That's pretty incredible. But my general strategy for trying to avoid damage on that phase is to jump away from like the platform itself and then jump back on. Good. We do a dash jump in order to get out of the way. Reload the wood cannon. And so the nice thing is that we won't see that one attack I super dislike for a little bit here, which is really nice. And so we get the bomb roaches, as I like to call them. And then he's guaranteed to do that attack, which gives us a ton of resources. And then we actually got this attack now, which is kind of interesting. So I was still under the effect of beans, so I could actually afford to use my shotgun ammo because it was guaranteed. And now we've kind of reset the phases, so we've seen all of his attacks at least once, which means that he is cool to start doing stuff over again. I'm going to... Okay, so that means that we have hit the damage threshold for final phase here. So this is probably the easiest part of this fight, is that each of these heads will die as long as you go for the crits. You will, in one full clip of the submachine gun here, will destroy one of the Medusa heads here. And so, or not Medusa heads, what's it called? Hydra heads. And so, this one's pretty easy at, like, they shoot these explosives in a pretty consistent pattern. So this should be the last head, and he's going to cough, which means that we've successfully cleared the fight. He's going to cough up Myzan's key. We're going to take a ride on our friend Melora, who I didn't even really get the chance to explain, like, the story or who any of these people are. You're just going to have to play the game, I'm sorry. This runs too fast and has too much going on. But that has been Frogmonster pretty much. Time is actually coming up relatively soon. There's going to be some dialogue boxes that I skip through for some cutscene. And then the screen is going to instantly flash the credits. And pretty much the frame that the credits come up is time. And for fun, we'll see if I can do the dash clip to get through the gate here. Oh, I nailed it. Nice. That's funny. This doesn't save any time. It's just funny that you can dash clip through that. All right, get ready. Time. All right. So that was Frogmonster, everyone. I think that was like a 41 something. So 2 deaths is not too bad. I didn't really get the chance to mention it. This game is really hard. I don't know how apparent that was, but like this is like Dark Souls tier kind of like bosses. So there's like a lot that can explode in your face and go wrong. So I'm glad I managed to put on a pretty good showcase here. But yeah, like I said, that was Frogmonster. First of all, shoutouts to the developer of this game, Ben Jungwirth, for making something super awesome. This game took over my life this April. I already have more hours in this game than I do in Pseudo Regalia, which, if you know me, that's saying a lot. This game is wonderful. Please consider getting this game on Steam and supporting the dev. I know winter sale's coming up, so there's an opportunity there, but this is one of the best games of the year, and you owe it to yourself to play it. I want to shout out some community members too. I would really like to thank Cave, who was originally going to be on commentary for this but could not make it, and has helped a lot with like routing and like especially like things with regarding the money route. Like a lot of that was his invention, as well as just like a lot of stuff. Like Cave is awesome and is a really awesome runner of this game. So shout outs to Cave. Shout outs to Meta Brit, who is the current no ridge skip world record holder. He's from Australia and is really awesome. Shout outs to him. And shout outs to anyone else who has ever touched this game in any way. This game is really cool and it's got a nice little community to it. So we have a Discord on speedrun.com/frogmonster. It's the dev's Discord too, so if you want to say hi to the dev and tell him how awesome the game is, you can do that too. But yeah, I've been Jaxler. You can find me at twitch.tv/JaxlerRun. I run games like Frogmonster, Neopets and Darkest Fear. If there's a weird game, I either run it or know someone who does. So I just want to extend a huge thank you to the Power Up with Pride community and staff for letting me be the opener for this. I've been participating in these events a long time, so it's kind of a really cool opportunity to be able to do that and put on some rep for the Ace Gang. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you all enjoy this weekend. We have an amazing schedule coming up. Please keep donating to see that Twisted Metal FMV incentive. But that will be all from me, everybody. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful rest of day one.
Thank you so much, Jaxler. That was an amazing run. Such good movement, such good, but I'm just gorgeous platforming. And yeah, also rep that Ace Pride. Thank you very much. But we will be right back with more Power Up with Pride and the Twisted Metal run. Don't go anywhere. Power Up with Pride and Fireside Pride continues on. Once again, you are watching Fireside Pride 2024, supporting Point of Pride. You can donate to us by using !donate in the chat, and check out the schedule by using !schedule. Now, coming up next is Twisted Metal, as I said just a few moments ago. It is important to remind you we have an incentive for Twisted Metal. I don't know if you remember, but it came out in the era of PS1 and the CD games that all loved to have FMV cutscenes, and a lot of them were pretty gosh darn cornball, if I'm being honest with you. Very corny, very cheesy, and Twisted Metal is not any different. If you'd like to see us show it off at the end of the run, there's an incentive for that. You just need to get your donation dollars in to see it. That incentive is not yet met, and you have until just the end of a very short run to do that. While you're at it, you can also put your money towards, that's right, you can put your money towards 2 different categories of incentives when you're donating. Keep that in mind. There's a poll going on for Spyro Reignited that lets you determine the color of Spyro. You could have it be purple, blue, there are other colors up for options, but purple and blue are currently tied dollar-wise. So you could be the one who changes the tide of that little bid war battle. And if you want to, send those dollars in right now. But that is all down the road. The Spiral Run will be tomorrow morning. We also have an incentive for Kirby that's coming up tomorrow morning. I don't remember the exact one because I want to put my focus on that FMV ending coming up next, but it's Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. We also have an incentive if you would like to instead put your money towards the Poyo. That said, I want to tell you about something real quick before we get to this Twisted Metal run. I know a lot of people like to talk about Die Hard as a Christmas movie, or maybe Parasite Eve as a Christmas video game. Y'all, I don't think enough people talk about that Twisted Metal is a Christmas video game. This is a holiday video game. Why is that? The Twisted Metal tournament, at least in Twisted Metal 1, takes place on Christmas Eve. And not only that, but the winner gets a wish of their choice. I mean, that's consistent across all the Twisted Metal games, but that's a very Christmas-like thing, don't you think? I mean, Christmas Eve tournament, wish from the host of the tournament, never mind all the explosions and car combat happening on Christmas Eve. Let's maybe not think about that part too hard, but Christmas video game. What a time for the holidays. But stay tuned, we're going to get that Twisted Metal run set up for you momentarily. As a reminder, Fireside Pride 2024 is raising money for Point of Pride. Point of Pride is a trans-led 501c3 nonprofit organization. They've served tens of thousands of people in all 50 states and 100 plus countries by providing access to gender-affirming health and wellness services. The money we raise will go to Point of Pride's various support programs, such as their Electrolysis Support Fund, which is a scholarship-like program that provides direct financial assistance to trans people in need of permanent hair removal services they cannot otherwise afford. If you'd like to apply for one of Point of Pride's grants or garment programs, get involved as a donor or volunteer, or just learn more about them, visit pointofpride.org.